to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. We're back with part 2 of the journey of Kendra, and let me get the last name, Dances on Water. I don't call it by her real last name. I like to dance on water. So let's get right down to part 2 of this. You got this beautiful enlightenment going on. Universal enlightenment is what I would like to call it. But you also went on a pilgrimage through this. Tell the viewers about the pilgrimage, because you're trying to further yourself. You're trying to find your purpose. Well, you know what your purpose is to some degree, but now you're going on a pilgrimage here. Tell me a little bit about that.
So it was the end of 2020, and Jesus came to me and he said, I need you to go to Egypt, step foot on your homeland, and remember who you are. And I was like, Egypt? What are you talking about? I've never even been out of the country. And he said, it's time to step into your high priestess form. And I'm like the tarot card? Like, what does that even mean? And then a couple weeks later, this woman appeared on my Facebook and she started talking about, come with me to Egypt, a high priestess pilgrimage to Egypt to remember the truth of who we are. And I was like, okay, well, that's the pilgrimage. But we were in the middle of a global pandemic. Like,
Right, who's leaving?
I didn't see how it was possible to even travel at that time,
Right.
let alone like I had no business coming in. And so I said, okay, God, if this is the pilgrimage I'm supposed to go on, then you're going to have to send me the money. And the next day I got a check in the mail. I should have took a picture of it for the exact.
How much was the check?
I don't remember exactly, but I know that it was enough to cover the pilgrimage and the plane ticket. But it was only like $20 more, like literally, like I should have asked for more because I didn't have any extra money. But so I signed up to go, and then my roommate also signed up to go. And all of a sudden she starts pretending, I say pretending, to be an alcoholic, like out of nowhere. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, there's no way I can take her to Egypt like this.
Right.
So I start to get these visions that like something really bad's going to happen to her. And I ask her if she'll let me help her. And she's like, yeah, of course, I'll let you help me. And so I asked Jesus if it's possible to help somebody it was ridiculous if you watched it. Like she was perfectly fine. Then all of a sudden she like went downhill real quick.
Maybe she didn't want to go.
No, I think it all had a purpose. And so I asked Jesus if it was possible for somebody to, stop drinking or doing drugs in this short amount of time and like get it together. And he showed me his 40 days and 40 nights in the desert. And then when I went to count how many days it was from that day until our flight left, it was 41 days. Mm. And so because I wasn't going to be a hypocrite at that time, I still drank occasionally. I threw away all of the alcohol in my house, and I was like, I'm going to do this with her, like whatever. But we're going to figure this out. We're going to do all of the things that are already available for people that are struggling with addiction. So we started it out with a 3-day fast, a water fast. And we were doing all the things. Like she was really into Buddhism. So we were like meditating with monks online. We were going to like 12-step groups. I have 10 years background of psychology. So I was like doing EMDR mixed with, cognitive behavioral, like different types of therapy with her. And we were just seeing what worked and what didn't. And so and we documented our whole journey, and it allowed me to witness and experience the waves that our body goes through when we're surrendering an addiction.
Okay.
And when we got to Egypt, we didn't know if we were going to like drink when we got there. I mean, at this time, I was under the impression that when you go on holiday, it's about having a drink. That's just how my family is. Like they're drinkers. And so it was beautiful because nobody on the pilgrimage drank. And I still to this day have not had a drink since.
Did you really want to drink, considering the fact that your girl is detoxing? Do you want to put her in that environment?
No, like I'm saying, like still to this day, like since those 40 days and 40 nights, both of us have never touched a drink ever again. Like we've never even had the desire to.
Good.
So we feel like we really figured something out there. And then that called me the following year to take 100 people with every different type of addiction through this 40 days and 40 nights process. And really, and to be able to go through, like I'd have people go live every day so that I could see what they were going through and where they were in surrendering the addiction. But anyway, so we go to Egypt, and it's the second day, and we go up to the king's chamber. And mind you, I didn't know why I was going. I didn't even know what a high priestess was, literally. Like I said, I didn't even want to know the itinerary, because I had had the experience where Jesus tells me to do something and I make it mean something else. Like he told me right before the pandemic that I needed to get a reliable vehicle and start traveling. And I said, traveling where? And he said, I'll let you know when you get there. And I'm like, no. And then we shut down. We went on lockdown. But the next day after he told me that, my mother called me and she's sending me pictures of this SUV. And she's like, do you like this vehicle? My mother doesn't even buy me Christmas presents, let alone a vehicle. And I'm like, yeah, that's nice. Did you sell your Mercedes? Like what's going on? She's like, I just bought this vehicle for you because God told me to. I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, like during lockdown, he says, you're going to go to Sedona before your pilgrimage, because I was living in Montana. And I didn't even know what a pilgrimage was. I was like, and so when I got to Sedona originally, I was like, oh, he sent me here because I'm this is my beloved. And I was so sure that this man was my beloved. And he was like, I'm definitely not, like, go away. And I just didn't get the hint. And then I got kicked out of Sedona a couple months later. So this time around, I was like, I was so determined to not let my mind get distracted or like think I was just like so focused in the moment, guide me in every moment. So we will go up to the king's chamber and I fully come online. And like when I'm fully illuminated, like I have this sound frequency that comes out of my third eye, but I can still talk.
Now, what's
And
third eye? Because some of the viewers may not register what you're talking about when you say third eye in vibrations.
it's
What is
the
that?
pineal gland. It's right here in the center of your forehead.
Okay.
It's what Jesus means when he says, like, allow your eye to be single. It's to no longer see in duality. But my third eye,
Vibration. What is that? The vibration. You said something about vibration.
it's the note of A. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it sounds like this.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So not to that like frequency, well, like that frequency, but not like that high, is coming out of my third eye. It like tunes out the distortions in the field. And so I'm going to people, like girls in the group, and I'm like activating them and I'm just giving them messages, like that I'm receiving. And I wasn't really participating in what was going on with the group. Like I think the group leader was doing an activation or something, or meditation. And then we all like, and then everybody laid down on their sarcophagus. It's like like a casket, for a lack of better words. And they're doing this like rebirth ceremony where they're laying down and then they're coming up. And everybody goes to start leaving, and I can feel like there's something like happening inside of me. Like I felt like this panic energy, but like there was like a birthing happening. And I go over to Jennifer, the group leader, and I'm like, no, there's something that we're supposed to do. I don't know what it is. And da 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 da. And so she starts listening to her higher self. And she's like, come over here. And she goes over to the sarcophagus, and we're on either side. And she goes into the Ark of the Covenant, and then she starts speaking in light language. And the moment that she does that, I'm like, no, it's not safe. And I say, clear the space. And as soon as I do that, this woman that's standing next to me gets thrown out of the king's chamber. And there's only one other woman that's left, and she's standing against the wall, and she starts taking pictures. And this light, which I perceive was the Father aspect of God, stepped into me and came down through me. And if you look at the pictures, I wish I had a side by side, but there's nothing in the first picture. And then you see this light come through me and then out and then into the sarcophagus. And what it was shown was that the umbilical cord for the planet was birthed through me. And then
How did you know that it was somebody bad in there while you was going through this transformation or
Well, I
power?
didn't know. She started going and the space wasn't secured. I didn't know it was about a person. I just said, clear the space because she was bringing in a higher frequency and the space wasn't cleared.
What
So
is
I had no
what does
idea.
that mean, what does that mean in layman term when you said she brought in a higher frequency? Was it a
It's
good
like if
frequency?
you're
Was it
trying to,
not matchable? What was that?
no, it's just like if you bought new furniture, but your house is disgustingly dirty. And instead of cleaning the house first before you bring in new furniture, you're just bringing in the new furniture. Or like your house is dirty, but you just decide to paint the walls, like that's not going to work. So clearing the space is like, you need to clear the space and to create like a sacred container before you allow something to come through you.
Okay.
And so that was just intuitively what I knew to do. There wasn't thought or judgment about it. It's what I know. And that is to be in the gnosis of God. And it wasn't until later that the woman was like, what happened? I got thrown out of the room. And then we found out that she was literally channeling Satan. Like later she tells us this, like she didn't know. It was so crazy. So I go through this whole like birthing. I'm down on the floor. The woman that's taking the pictures, she stops taking pictures and she comes over and she's like midwifing me and her hands are like making me like jump, and it was intense. And then there was like silence. And then this man comes into the room and he doesn't look at us. He just stands against the wall and he starts singing like the most beautiful song we've ever heard. And then he looks at me and but he doesn't look directly at me. Like he'll look like to the side. And he was like, thank you so much for coming. The planet thanks you. Thank you so much for coming. And I just like look at Jennifer and Sandy and I'm like, what just happened? And they're both acting like it was completely normal. Like, no,
Really?
like it was just completely fine. And so I'm like, okay, guys, my human is freaking out right now. Like, I asked the group leader, I'm like, can I put my human part in your womb? Because she does not feel safe. She's like, yeah, sure. So I follow them down, like out of the king's chamber. It's like this big, like intense stairs that you have to go through. And there's people that are coming up as we're trying to go down. So we have to stop on one side. And I'm like, if you've ever had given birth or been around a woman and having contractions, like they come every few minutes and you have to like, you're like trying to breathe and you're like contracting and all of that. That's what was happening to me, like literal contractions.
But you
And
wasn't pregnant at all.
no, and so this woman comes up with this group and she stops and she starts midwifing me too. She's like, just breathe. Thank you so much for coming. The planet thanks you. Thank you so much for coming. And I'm like, and I don't speak to her. I just probably was like, what? And I look at Jennifer and I'm like, what, how do they know? And then the woman says, how did we know when Jesus was born? And I was just so confused. I was like, what does that even mean? What do they know that I don't know? Like, what's happened? And so we go to leave and it's so bright and I'm shaking. It's hot. I don't even know what's going on. And I'm looking for my sunglasses. And I hear the father aspect of God say, no, show them your eyes, show them who you are. And so I'm like, okay. And for some reason, I took off my shoes in order to walk down from the pyramids because I was still really shaky. And then the vendors start running up like, oh, Americans, like, let me sell you something. And I just said, no. And they all stopped like at once. And this American man starts clapping. And then another man says, thank you for letting us see your eyes. And then another man's like, thank you for coming. And then another man's like, are you Egyptian? Are you, Greek? Are you American? And I just kept saying, I am. And then I get back on the bus and I still don't know what the heck is going on. And I'm just grateful to be under the air conditioning. And they're like, come on, we're going to go take one more picture. So I got out and I was like a good sport for that one, took a picture. And then I think that we're going back to the hotel. And then the guide, he's like, nope, we're going to pull over one more time. And it's like this beautiful picture. If you look at some of my pictures online, you'll probably see it. It's me in front of the pyramids. And
When you was going through this, didn't anybody ask what's going on? But you kept going in deeper into the pyramids. I,
right.
I mean, like, why
Like
did you take
everybody was
yourself out?
literally just asking, like acting like it was so normal. Like it like
But you knew
that
it wasn't normal. But I mean,
I
why didn't you
feel
just
like I
leave?
was the only one that was like it wasn't normal. But the thing is if I would have been alone, even if I was feeling those things, I never would have allowed it. And so it wouldn't have happened. And so that's why it's two or more gathered in Christ. And that's when those miracles are able to manifest.
But you didn't
So
even know what was happening. So, like,
that
how do you even know it
because if
was
I did
manifest?
know what if God was like, so I'm gonna bring through and you're gonna birth the umbilical cord for the planet, don't you think that my human mind would have screwed that up? Like made that mean a billion different things and fell into judgment, then it wouldn't have been possible. It's just like, oh, you're going to birth the new earth. If you like are literally thinking that an earth is going to come through you, that would crush you as a human being. Like you would not survive that. So I don't think that we're always given the conscious awareness of what God is doing or working in our lives. And we just have to be willing to surrender and allow it to all be for his will.
So
So
let's keep going. So you get on the bus and there's
so
it's hot in Egypt.
it's hot, but this was April, like April to May. So it wasn't as hot as when I went the second time. But so they all get off. They're like they're all wearing white dresses, dressed like, princesses and goddesses. And they're doing this beautiful photo shoot and all the stuff. And it's gorgeous. I'm wearing pants and a t-shirt. Like I wasn't, I don't even think I wore dresses at that time in my life. And so it's like 15 minutes goes by and I hear the father aspect of God say, no, get off the bus and go tell your people that they are free. Go tell your people that they are free. So I'm like, okay, all right. So I go and the bus door opens and this man, I should have grabbed it. This man that's been standing there the whole time, that's seen all of these women walk out. As soon as he sees me, he hits me with this frequency. And he says, our queen has risen. Queen Cleopatra, she's come back for us. And as soon as he says that, I start crying, but not like this like it was like this recognition and like just like a flood of tears are falling down my eyes. And then I'm like, how did I forget? And as he's saying it, he's running to all of the vendors, our queen. And like they're all coming out from their little places where they're selling things. And I go over and I'm just walking. Like I'm like it's hitting me. I don't have a lot of expression. And like in the first picture, I'm just like this. And then when I go like this, all of the vendors fall on the ground. Like their head is on the ground and they're all bowed and they're not moving. And I'm like, oh my God. And so I go over to them and they won't look at me. They won't get up. And I'm like, get up. You guys are free. Go. Like, you don't need to be here anymore. Just go. You're free. And they like weren't really listening. Like they just stayed bowing down. So I go and I get back on the bus. I'm like, I don't know. That's what God told me to do. Like, I don't know what else to do. Like, just
Did
I told them that
people on the bus and like ask what were they thinking as this was
it
going?
was like two perceptual, like different realities. Like a couple of people were aware, but not to the degree as I was. And I was kind of hanging back, it was like 15 minutes later. So like they were all doing their thing. They like only the bus driver heard the man say that and then like yelling and running and like all of the vendors heard him. Like later, the group leader knew about it, but I wasn't like blasting this. Even when I found out, it was interesting because one of the first nights when we were going to share, one of the women was like, if it wasn't for Queen Cleopatra, who completely destroyed this entire dynasty, and like Egypt hasn't been a sovereign nation since. And I was just like, oh, okay, so Queen Cleopatra is not loved in this group. Like, I'm not even going to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I go back and I get on the bus. and the whole lifetime is like downloading. Like it's like your computer's like updating. Like I'm seeing flashes
So
of
you're definitely in the matrix for real. You're getting hardwired.
right. It's like everything's and the man that was selling things, the vendor, he's running around the bus. He's like pounding on the bus. We're in like those big Greyhound buses, and he's like, "No, Queen, take me with you. I work for you. I work for you. Take me with you." And I'm like, "Not right now. Like, I can't take you with me. Like, I just found this out. Like, what do you mean? What are you gonna do?" And he's like, "No, but I work for you." And he goes, "Okay, well then can I give you a gift?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, like, gifts are my love language. So of course you can give me a gift." So the door opens and he hands me this handmade camel that he made. And he was like, "Will you hold on to this? And when it's time, will you come back for me?" And I said, "When it's time, you will find me." And he said, "How will I know when it's time?" I said, "You'll know when you find me." And I didn't tell him what my name was. I didn't tell him anything. And
Right.
then that night he found me on Facebook when I had nothing about Queen Cleopatra on my Facebook or anything like that.
When you
So
when you went when all of this, we got a little bit more time. When all this is going on, what's going through your mind?
lots.
You just been downloaded with the Matrix, uploading all this information about Cleopatra, Mark Anthony. We know the legacy there. Well, you don't even know what
I
went on
didn't
because you
even
don't
know
even
any of
study the
that.
history. So this is really like new to you. And
Right.
here's a
So
woman that basically broke down the Egyptian dynasty and has never pretty much recovered since that time. What's going through your mind right now?
So the first night, I believe I wrote about it. I know I like wrote to people about it, but I just remember when we went back to the hotel, just being up all night. And I was just like, because the way that it was coming through was this awareness of why I had these, like why I was so attracted to that man in Sedona and like was so sure that he was my person. It's because he was an aspect of Mark Antony. And like why I had experienced, like my first boyfriend dying in my arms from asthma after I played the role of Cleopatra that I didn't even audition for in 6th grade. It's like, and then I went to like go kill myself, like because I was playing out those like I didn't even know I was playing out that past life. Like you're just thinking, oh, this is how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I'm saying like there's aspects of us that come in from like that we're carrying from different lifetimes. And so yeah, it was really coming through of like this awareness. And it was a lot. It was so much. And we were constantly going. Like this wasn't like a vacation. Like we were hitting like at least a temple or a couple of temples a day. And we were traveling all the way down from Cairo all the way to Aswan. So it was an intense pilgrimage that first time. I think we were there for 12 days. And it was a lot of work. So there wasn't a lot of downtime to process. I was just like in it. And so the
What
people,
was happening to you? You don't have any history of Cleopatra, but you're in Egypt. You're going through Luxor, the Valley of the Kings. You're going to the kings and queens chambers. Now all of a sudden, this information has been downloaded of her whole entire life. When you was traveling, were certain parts of Egypt where she reigned over, she had some impact? Was the frequencies and the downloads stronger or weaker, or what was that like, or if that even happened?
well, Cleopatra was one of the, well, she was one of two queens to rule by herself. But she was one of the few that reigned over Upper and Lower Egypt. And that's what the two feathers are on her headdress. It means that she reigned over Upper and Lower. So, but Alexandria, which is right on the ocean, is where her kingdom was. And Alexandria, I still haven't been able to go to yet. I don't think that I would have been able to handle it the first time around, but she did have a lot of connection with the pyramids. And I do believe that's where her body is in one of the pyramids. Um, And then over the Temple of Dendra, she actually finished the building of that temple with her father. So when I went to the Temple of Dendra, which they call the Hathor Temple, there, like, definitely it was intense. Like, we went into the birthing room, and everyone was like, we had a sound healer there, and everybody was kind of spread out, and we were just feeling the energies, and Jennifer was leading us through something. And there was this woman, Sandy, who was the one in the King's Chamber that was taking pictures. She was standing like off to the side, and she was singing to the wall, but she was like off. And so I could see that she was the key. And like, I was just assessing the situation. Like, I wasn't really participating. And then I was being guided. And so I could see that she was a key, but she was like in the wrong place. And so I literally took her and I moved her to the center. And then I had my singing bowl over there, the metal one, not the glass one. And I went down and I hit it like I was down on the ground, and I hit it as loud as I could. And I said, sing. And she was like, oh, like, in like this most beautiful, she said she's never sang like that before. There's actually not a video, but it's audio on my YouTube channel, Kendra Divine Mother Ministry. If you just look up Hathor Temple, you'll hear it. And so she starts to sing, and I see the etheric temple come down like to where we are, and that like unlocks the whole thing. And so then when we go into the main temple, I like, when I walked in there, I was like, oh, I've been here before, and everything looked different. And I could remember the black granite on the ceiling, and us having like these big like banquets, like dinners, and like people would come and bring gifts. And then so to hear the guide like speak about it, but he didn't mention that it had anything to do with Cleopatra. So I had no idea. And so I'm like I have a few videos where I'm like filming, and I'm describing, I was taking videos for my daughter because she loves Egypt. And I was explaining what the hieroglyphics mean, even though I didn't know, right?
I was gonna say, can you read hieroglyphics?
But I can't, but I'm like describing what it means to me, right?
Right.
So, but then to later find out things, it was so crazy. So there's like these rooms where it's like the heaven, and then these it's like underground where like the tombs are and stuff. So it's like heaven and hell, right? And then the middle realm, which we all experience. And so I grabbed these two other women, and I'm like, we're supposed to go up there. And I faced them all out, and there was light coming in through each of their third eyes. And I was like, now just make sound, like any type of sound. And as we did, something happened, and we all got activated. And me and the one girl, we walked down together. I don't know what happened to the other girl. And we're just like, I don't know how to explain it. It was like, all of a sudden we were like Energizer bunnies. We're like, woo. And so we're going around the temple, and we go up this sunken spiral staircase. And as soon as we get to the top, there's a high priest that's waiting for us that wasn't there before. And he was like, are you ready? And we're like, okay. And so he grabs our hands like he's walking us in, and he walks us into the Osiris room. And he has me stop at the door, and he brings my friend Venus, and he opens up the gate in the floor, and he puts her on the gate in the floor. And then he takes me and he goes and puts me in the corner, and he says, bow to Osiris. And so I bow to Osiris. And then he brings me over, and he pulls my friend off of the gate in the floor and turns her around, and then puts me on the gate in the floor. And as soon as I step on, all of this air comes up from this gate in the floor, and like it's shooting up into the ceiling. And like, we're like, whoa, what's happening? Did they just turn on the fan? Like, what's going on? And he goes, do you agree? And we're like, okay. And we're pretty sure he married us in that moment, because like, we have no idea what we agreed to. But he puts our third eyes together. And the moment that he puts our third eyes together, we literally were like magnetically stuck, and we can't get off. And all of this air is coming up, and we're like, whoa, like what's going on? And then so he lets that go on for a little bit, and then he like breaks the current and helps us to step off. And then I am like fully online. And so I start playing music on my phone. Now, mind you, they don't let you have crystals in these temples. They don't want you to pray. They'll be like, no meditation, no meditation, because they don't want you to like activate things. Like they're
Right.
oh, it's so intense. So I'm breaking all of the rules of antiquities, and I'm playing loud music. It's just like music that somehow appeared on my phone. And I'm dancing. And now, mind you, they have like armed guards with like big guns that are like ready to take you out if you like disobey, or at least threaten that they will. And so I'm dancing throughout the temple, and I get to the end of the sunken staircase, and this armed guard is standing there with his like machine gun. And I know that I have this choice point. Like I can either bow down and turn off my music and quiet down or whatever. And I just say, your gods have told me to send or to bring music back to the temples. And he was like, okay, go. And so he like lets me go. And I keep dancing and I'm playing this music. And then I was guided to basically like activate around the temple. And then I walk out. And I'm like, wow, like I'm thinking back, like, wow, they like let me dance in the Temple of Dendra. They didn't stop me, all this stuff. And so as I'm walking to the bus by myself, there's now 4 armed guards walking towards each other. And they're at the end of the walkway where I'm walking. And they're all walking towards me. And I'm like, oh, this is it. Like they just called for backup.
Yeah.
They're taking me out for dancing and playing music in a temple in Egypt. And so another choice point comes, like, do you back down? And I say, your gods have told me to bring music back to the temples. And they literally all start dancing with me with their guns and like dance me back to my bus. And they're like happy and all this. And so yeah, that was kind of the highlight.
What do you think? What did you get out of that journey? What did you get out of that? I know the viewers enjoyed your story, but what did you get from that? What was the lesson?
What I got was that I was playing small, and I was living this individual lifetime as Kendra. Now, I don't believe that we should be hiding behind our past lives, because I've also been reprimanded for that. But I do feel like my consciousness shifted from that moment forward, because I went home and like I was told to sell all of my things and then move to Sedona. And so like none of my belongings even made sense anymore. Like the way that I had been living was like, like when you realize that you were a queen or a king, or that you tap into this consciousness of the all, like the little ways that we hold ourselves in bondage, it just seems silly. And so I understand what the purpose was for me going, was to remember, who I've been, and to really step into the truth of who I am, to bring that mastery from previous and parallel lifetimes into this lifetime. But I do believe that we can get distracted by, oh, you were Mark Antony, I was Cleopatra, and now we're playing out these roles, and we're not fulfilling our missions in this lifetime, or being here, boots on the ground.
What are you doing now? You're saying you're creating a program or a pilgrimage for individuals. Tell the viewers about that before we wrap up.
So I've created the 40 Days and 40 Night Freedom Challenge, and I just finished the book. So if you can't afford to go through the 40 Days and 40 Night Freedom Challenge with me, you can take yourself through the process with the book. And the book is there's space for you to write in the book, and so it lives on as a living testimony for you to look back at whenever you're struggling through life. And we're creating Reignite Divine Light festivals to let the world know that help has arrived to prevent suicide and overdose.
How can the viewers get in contact with you for more information?
They can reach me at divinemotherministry.com, or send me an email at kendradivinemotherministry@gmail.com.
You know what, Kendra, I really appreciate you telling your story, and we've talked for quite some time, and I know personally that your story goes even deeper, and I would love to have you come back and share even more of the second trip. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. She did another trip to Egypt on the show. Leave the viewers with something positive. You've experienced a lot, and like you said, we got wars going on. We keep coming back. Hopefully, when we do keep coming back, we can figure out how to catch those crumbs or those breadcrumbs or those signals to help elevate ourselves to the next level. Leave the viewers with something positive.
I feel that no one on this planet needs to struggle with addiction because there is a solution, and it's simply a symptom of a much bigger problem. And that when I feel like every single person going through the 40 days and 40 night freedom challenge, it's just like, you know, Jesus's 40 days in the desert. And when we unhook ourselves from everything that we're addicted to and all of the ways that we're being influenced, we truly experience living as our divinity.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another universal, exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton.
Thank you so much.